Good morning from downtown Nicosia, Cyprus. It is around 8:15 here in the center of Cyprus on this Tuesday morning, and we have a lot of news to get to. We have Azovstal, we have Erdogan, Finland, Sweden, his comments with regards to their NATO membership. We have Putin's first comments with regards to Finland, Sweden, NATO membership, and we have comments coming out of Viktor Orban related to the EU. So the big story that we have to get to is, of course, Azovstal. And the last stand is finally over, if you go by the collective West's narrative. So their narrative is that Mariupol has not been taken yet because the Azovstal, these heroic fighters in the steel factory, are protecting the city of Mariupol, and they're preventing the Russians from capturing the city. Well, can we finally say now in the collective West mainstream media that Mariupol is now under Russian control? Can we finally say that? CNN, BBC, MSNBC, New York Times? Can we admit that Mariupol is now taken by the Russian military, because the heroic last stand of the Azov battalion stuck in this steel factory has collapsed. And it's safe to say that these guys were Azov. Now, there are no Ukraine military there. There's no professional Ukrainian soldiers. These are Azov NAZIs that were stuck in this steel factory. And you had yesterday the surrender of the injured and the wounded. So the Azov guys, they finally let all the soldiers who were sick and they were injured and they needed medical attention to leave the catacombs, and they were taken to hospitals in the parts controlled by the DPR, by the Donetsk People's Republic, by the military there. So they were allowed to seek medical attention in Russian-controlled areas of the area. And a few hours later, you had, from what I gather, the reports that I read, you had around 10 guys come out from the steel factory waving a white flag, and you had the eventual surrender of around 500 more Azov military guys. You had 12 buses waiting for them outside, and this is all happening like in the middle of the night. RT has footage of this. You had 12 buses waiting for them, 12 buses at, say, 30, 40 people a bus, say 40 people a bus. You have around 400 to 500 Azov guys that have now been evacuated, and they're all going to DPR areas, Donetsk, People's Republic areas. And I imagine that you're going to start to get some very interesting information coming out with regards to who these people are, who else is down there, what was going on there, and also who gave the orders to finally surrender. Because the spin coming out of Kiev is that Zelensky and his regime decided to finally let these guys leave the steel factory. But we're also getting reports saying that it was the Azov commanders who finally just decided there's just no more reason to stay down here anymore. We've been abandoned by Zelensky. They're not coming to our aid. It's over. It's time to give up, seek medical attention, and end this. So I imagine in the next, say, week or two, we'll probably get better information as to why they finally decided to come out, who gave the orders, and kind of get the backstory as to what's happening. I'm sure we're also going to get the information that we've all kind of been waiting to get, which is who else was in those catacombs, or what else was hiding in that steel factory. We are getting reports that NATO, well, foreign fighters, I don't want to say NATO, foreign fighters have also been evacuated or are still remaining to be evacuated, because we've got 500 people that have come out, 500 Azov guys that have come out, And I would imagine that you have another 500 to maybe 1,000 more if you take reports that there were 1,500 to 2,000 Azov guys down there. So say you have another 500 to 1,000 more people that need to be evacuated from there. There are reports that you have British, US, and a lot of French who are remaining to be evacuated from the steel factory. And Canadian as well, maybe Turkish, because Turkey was very keen on negotiating an evacuation as well. Who knows? Who knows who's left to be evacuated? But we're going to get information as to the makeup of the foreign mercenaries that were indeed stuck in these catacombs. They will be taken to a hospital. I'm just looking at the name of the hospital. A hospital in Novozavotsk, and these are all areas controlled by the DPR. And this is according to the Deputy Defense Minister of Ukraine, Anna Malyar. So there's got to be more people down there, and I'm sure they're going to be coming out in the next day or two. Who gave the orders? Who gave the orders for them to come out? Who finally ended this? Ukrainian President Zelensky is saying that he gave the orders to come out. And Zelensky said in a statement that, and I quote, "We hope to save the lives of our boys. I want to underline, Ukraine needs its Ukrainian heroes alive. This is our principle." So Zelensky is trying to say that Ukraine gave the orders and the general command of the military finally told them to come out, and he's trying to take credit for this. We'll find out. We'll find out in the next days or weeks as to why they came out, because they're going to be interrogated by the Russians now. So a lot of secrets, a lot of interesting secrets, I believe, will start emerging. And if you go by the reports that there were 1,000 plus people in that factory, I imagine that there's still another 500 to 1,000 more people that need to come out of there. So the evacuation, I imagine, is going to take place over the next day or two. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of the foreign fighters, the foreign mercenaries, the NATO fighters, whatever you want to call them or label them. I wouldn't be surprised if we see them coming out as well. So that is Azovstal. It's finally coming to an end, to a conclusion. And the BBC and CNN can finally put out their stories where they say that Mariupol has finally fallen to the Russians. And the movies from Hollywood now are, I am sure, are being lined up to get their release. In Hollywood, on Netflix. I'm sure all those movies are now being made and they're going to be released, documenting the heroic last stand of the Azov NAZIs. So that's the news coming out of Azovstal. Big news, and I'm sure there's going to be a story that will be getting more news in the next day or two, and maybe the next couple of weeks, as if the Russians want to divulge the information that they're going to get from their interrogations of not only the Azov militia guys, but also of the foreign mercenaries. Keep in mind that we have reports that there is a Canadian general in Moscow being interrogated. At least those are the reports that we get from the Russian media, and the Russians haven't said anything with regards to that officially either. So maybe the NATO guys or the foreign mercenary guys, maybe they're going to be evacuated in a more secretive manner. Maybe they've already been evacuated and we're just not hearing about it. Perhaps that's something that's taking place or will take place. A secret evacuation of the mercenaries, of the foreign mercenaries. Maybe there was something else in those catacombs outside of just people. Maybe there were some other hidden things. It'll be interesting to find out. if the Russians let us find out. So, switching gears from Azovstal, we have the other big story, which is that Erdogan came out with a statement saying that Turkey will not say yes to Finland and Sweden's NATO membership. And we have delegations from Finland and Sweden that are going to be flying to, I believe, Ankara. Actually, I think today or tomorrow, trying to convince Erdogan to let them into NATO. But Erdogan came out with statements, and he said that he will not, under any circumstances, allow Finland and Sweden into NATO. He actually said in his statements, don't come to Turkey and to try to convince me to vote yes. I'm not going to vote yes. Very, very strong statements coming from Erdogan. And he's negotiating. I think eventually he will say yes. I believe he will. I could be wrong. Maybe he's going to stick to his no vote. But the vote's going to take place, from what I understand, around the end of June. So I think Erdogan is sitting back. He's sitting pretty. He's smart. He understands how to negotiate. And I'm sure he's saying, you know, I've got a month. How much can I extract from the US and from NATO in the next month until the vote for membership of Finland and Sweden takes place? Very, very smart move from Erdogan. Get something out of it. Get something for your yes vote. Yeah, you can't blame Erdogan for this tactic that he's taken, because, you know, if he's going to vote yes to this disastrous decision, which Finland and Sweden are taking, well, Erdogan might as well get some concessions out of it. So we'll see in the next weeks, as the vote approaches in June, exactly what the U.S. is going to give to Erdogan and what NATO is going to give to Erdogan in exchange for his yes vote. Because if Finland and Sweden were to not get into NATO, it would be an absolute PR optics disaster for Stoltenberg and for the Biden White House and for the EU kleptocrats and the DC neocons. It would be a complete PR disaster. It would also be a political disaster for Finland and Sweden, for the governments there as well, because keep in mind, they're taking Finland and Sweden into NATO without any referendum, without any vote, nothing. They're just ramming this through. So if Erdogan was to say come end of June, no, I'm still going to vote no, that would be just such a massive PR catastrophe for them. I mean, it would be really, really embarrassing, really bad. So they're going to give Erdogan anything he freaking wants in order for him to vote yes. Anything he wants, they're going to give it to him, because they're going to make sure that Finland and Sweden get into NATO. For NATO, that's going to be a win. That's how they see it. They're losing. The collective West is losing the economic war really, really bad. They're losing the war on the ground in Ukraine really, really bad. And what's the only win that they have at the moment? Finland and Sweden getting into NATO. You know, Stoltenberg, we're more united and we're stronger than ever and we're growing. And the fact that NATO is growing means that this special military operation by Putin has failed. You see, Putin, by going into NATO, by going into Ukraine, NATO has expanded and it's grown, so your plans have backfired. That's the narrative that they have to get out over the summer. So Finland and Sweden is key to the collective West's PR spin. And at this moment in time, all the collective West has is PR and spin. That's it. They don't have anything real. Nothing. They're losing on the economic front. They're losing on the energy front. They're losing the war. All they have at the moment is PR spin. So Finland and Sweden in NATO is a must. Good on Erdogan. Really good, Erdogan. Don't give up your vote for nothing. I wish Greece and Cyprus would learn a little bit from Erdogan. I really wish they would learn from Turkey. You also have Putin coming out with his first statements with regards to Finland and Sweden joining NATO. And Putin was pretty measured, pretty calm about it. He said, in a nutshell, he said, I don't have a problem with Finland and Sweden joining NATO. As a matter of fact, we couldn't really care. But, and this is the caveat, if Russia sees missiles and threatening hardware getting moved to Finland or Sweden, well, then Russia's going to react. And that was the caveat, that was the but that Putin put out there when he gave his first comments with regards to Finland and Sweden joining NATO. Putin said that further NATO enlargement is a problem that has been created completely and artificially since it is being done in the foreign policy interests of the United States. Very true. Putin also said that the military bloc has been routinely used as a foreign policy instrument of one country, the US, but quite persistently, skillfully, and very aggressively. That's a quote. So Putin is saying that the United States successfully uses NATO to poke the bear and soon to poke the Chinese dragon as well. Let's not forget the comments made from Liz Truss about a week and a half ago, where she said we need a NATO expansion to start poking China as well, a new branch of NATO in the South Pacific. So NATO has been used successfully to poke the bear and to expand in Europe, and it's going to be used successfully to poke China and to poke the dragon as well. So then Putin went on and he said that Russia, and there's a quote, he said that Russia has no problem with these states in this sense. The NATO expansion through the accession of these countries does not create an immediate threat for Russia. But the expansion of military infrastructure into this territory will certainly provoke our response. So Putin is saying no problem with Finland and NATO in the sense of with Finland and Sweden in the sense of them just joining NATO. It was baked in the cake, is what Putin is saying. No big deal. That's actually going to be a problem for Finland and Sweden. It's not going to be a problem for us, the fact that they join NATO. But it's going to be a problem for us if we see military infrastructure entering these countries. Putin said, we will respond accordingly. That is exactly what he said if Russia sees any type of military infrastructure getting moved into Finland or Sweden. And I'm sure that Finland would be really worrying and troubling for Russia. So if the crazies in the DC think tanks, in Brussels, in the EU headquarters, the neocons and the warmongers, if they really want World War III, an easy way to get there would be to move infrastructure that threatens Russia into Finland. So people living in Finland and Sweden, if your political leadership in the near future decides to move missiles to your territory and point those missiles towards Russia, then you're heading towards a hot war. I think that Putin's message is very clear. Join NATO, pay your NATO fees, join the NATO corruption bandwagon, whatever you want to call it. Join the NATO corruption scheme, and that's fine for us, no problem. But any military infrastructure that's going to be positioned in Finland or Sweden, then you're looking at a hot war. I think Putin's comments are crystal clear, and Putin is not bluffing. So those are the comments from Putin. Those are the comments from Erdogan. Let's now talk about Viktor Orban, who was sworn into office for his fourth consecutive term. And Viktor Orban gave some really interesting comments with regards to the EU. He said that Brussels is abusing its power every day and it wants to force on us things we don't want. Orban also said that the EU leadership is seeking to reduce the sovereignty of member states and to build the United States of Europe. He also said that cultural alienation is growing between Western and Eastern Europe, And Orban also said that we are not members of the European Union because it is as it is, but as it could be. And he was hinting at the fact that his government is going to try and change Europe from within. I don't like that type of policy. I don't believe you can change Europe from within. I think that the EU is what it is, and it's getting worse with each passing day. And either they're going to destroy Hungary or Hungary's going to have to leave. But those were the comments that Orban made as he was taking his oath of office. He also said that he also made comments with regards to the threats for the oil embargo against Hungary. And he reassured Parliament that Hungary would not stand in the way of imposing new sanctions as long as those sanctions do not threaten Hungary's energy security. And he said that Budapest should maintain an independent policy within the European Union. He also said that that policy carries over to NATO as well. He said NATO is a firm supporter, but it will not defend Hungary for us. The most urgent task is to strengthen the Hungarian army and make it a real army. So I want to talk a little bit about Orban's comments with regards to the pressure being put on Hungary so that they can say yes to an oil embargo. Right now, the oil embargo has kind of been put on hold, but the EU, Ursula von der Crazy and Joseph Borrell, they don't have a reverse gear. And they're going to continue to push for an oil embargo. And I think the oil embargo, while they're going to say it's aimed at Russia, I think the oil embargo is also aimed at dismantling Germany. Once again, deindustrializing Germany. You always have to remember the NATO mantra, which is keep Russia out, keep America in, and keep Germany down. And so the keep Germany down part is already being fulfilled, and an oil embargo will keep Germany even more down. So that's one of the reasons for the oil embargo. But another reason for the oil embargo is to get regime change in Hungary. And they want to destroy Hungary's economy, because if you cut off the oil to a landlocked country like Hungary, and Hungary's not the only landlocked country in the European Union, but if you cut off the oil to Hungary via pipelines, well, the only way for Hungary to get oil is going to be to get it from other EU countries, which are going to be getting their oil via tankers, and Hungary's going to have to get that oil at a huge markup. We're talking a massive premium that the Hungarian government is going to have to pay for that oil, and they're going to have to pass on that cost to the Hungarian consumer, to the Hungarian citizen. The Hungarian citizen's going to get a lot poorer. Their standard of living is going to plummet. They're going to be upset with Orban, and they're going to want political change. And that is what the EU is betting on. Because here's what's going to happen. If they get Orban, and Orban is onto this, he understands exactly the game that the EU is playing, believe me. He's much smarter than Ursula von der Crazy and her gang. But, it's a game that Orban is playing, and he understands where the EU is taking this. But the scenario is as such. The EU is pressuring Hungary to go along with an oil ban, with an oil embargo, and they're pressuring other countries as well that are landlocked in the EU to go along with this. But Orban is he's the real sticking point. He's the leader. And so they're pressuring Orban to just go along with this. And Orban is resisting because he understands the implications. It'll be political suicide. I mean, it'll be devastating for the country as well and for its citizens, but it will mean the end of Orban. And what the EU is trying to do is they're trying to get Hungary to say yes, to finally say yes and go through this oil embargo. That would mean that all oil coming in via a pipeline to Hungary is going to stop. And Hungary's going to have to buy that oil from, say, I don't know, Germany or the Netherlands, or Poland, because they're going to be getting that oil via tankers. And how are they going to get that oil? Well, they're going to get that oil from tankers that are going to be delivering and carrying Russian oil. But Germany, Netherlands, Poland, they're never going to say it's Russian oil. What's going to happen is that oil on that tanker is going to make a couple of trips around the world, right? I'm going to be exaggerating it a bit, but that tanker is going to be making some trips around the world. It's going to change its flag. It's going to change its paperwork. It's going to start off as a Greek tanker, right? It's going to have a Greek flag because the Greeks are Greek shipping, Malta, Cypriot. They're the ones that are really carrying oil in tankers. They're the big the oil shipping countries. So they're going to be they're going to have a tanker with a Greek flag. That Greek flag will make a stop somewhere in Africa. It'll then have a different country's flag, different paperwork. It'll then travel somewhere in Asia. They'll switch the flags up there, different paperwork, change the name of the ship, and then eventually it'll make its way to a port in the Netherlands, say. And the Netherlands is going to say, look, we got this oil and it's not Russian. See, look at the paperwork, look at the flag. This is not a Russian, this is not a tanker carrying Russian oil, or this is not a tanker that's even affiliated with Russian companies, Russian oil companies. So we're good to go. And of course, the Netherlands is going to pay a massive premium for that Russian oil. So the Russian oil that they could have gotten really, really cheap, they're not going to pay 10x more for it. And then they're going to go to Hungary and they're going to say, well, we've got this excess oil now, which just arrived via tanker, and we can give you some of that, but it's going to cost you now 20x to cart it over to Budapest. And so the Hungarian citizen is going to pay 20x more for that oil. And that's how they're going to demolish the Hungarian economy. And the people in Hungary are going to be burdened with this massive cost increase, and they're going to be upset with Orban. And that is how the EU is going to get their regime change. It's really like it's like those movies where you have like a bank robbery, and the getaway car is like one color or has one type of license plate, and it gets away and it goes underground to like an underground parking, and the bank robbers, they get out, they change the license plates, they slap some stickers on the side of the getaway car, maybe they even change the color of the car, and then they drive off. That is exactly how oil is going to be delivered to the EU if they get their embargo approved. It's going to be Russian oil. Don't be fooled one bit. It is going to be Russian freaking oil. But the tankers are going to be traveling around, and they're going to make 3-4 stops, and they're going to change flags and paperwork and management companies and all of these things, and it's going to be categorized as non-Russian oil tankers, non-Russian oil in the tankers. And it's just going to get sold to Hungary at a massive premium. I mean, it's going to be sold to the people of Germany, Netherlands, Poland, etc. at a massive premium as well. But it's going to have to get resold to Poland after that at an even higher, resold to Hungary after that at an even higher price, because Hungary's landlocked. They're going to have big problems getting oil if it's not coming through pipelines. So that's the game that the EU is trying to play with Orban. That is why Orban is sticking to his guns and saying, no, I am not going to approve an oil embargo. That's why the oil embargo has been put on the back burner. But, the EU, they understand that if they can somehow pressure Hungary or pressure Orban to say yes to the embargo, then it's lights out for the Orban government. And the EU is going to get their regime change in the next election cycle. So that's what's going on with Orban in Hungary, and the statements that he made as he undertakes another term as the Prime Minister of Hungary. And I think that will wrap up the video. and we'll talk clown world now. And the clown world is going to be short, but this one is hilarious. So let me pull out my phone here for a second, because this is a Reuters article and I want to make sure I get this one right. So Reuters came out with an article with the title, Ukraine says it has repelled Russian incursion in Sumy region. So that's the article from Reuters. And they have a photo of, the Ukraine soldiers there with their guns, and they're repelling the Russians in the Sumy region, right? And the caption under the photo says, members of the Territorial Defense Force attend training following Russia's invasion of Ukraine outside an abandoned building in Sumy, Ukraine, April 15th, 2022. So you can see on the screen the photo, the title, the Reuters article, the Ukraine soldiers with their guns. They're attending a training session as they're repelling the Russian forces in Sumy. One problem with that photo, it's a photo of Ukraine soldiers holding paintball guns. That's right. They are holding paintball guns. And this is an article from Zero Hedge. It says, Reuters is being widely mocked for publishing an article Monday morning, which is headlined, Ukraine says it has repelled Russian incursion in Sumy region, given it is accompanied with the below photograph, the photograph that I put on screen. The photo tweeted by Reuters naturally created some confusion, to put it lightly. Yes, a Ukraine military photo showing troops beating back the Russians, apparently with paintball guns. So Reuters even tweeted that article, they tweeted that photo, and everyone started to make fun of Reuters because the guns that they're holding in the photo are indeed paintball guns. That is the clown world, everybody. Really funny, funny clown world. Once again, the fake news of Reuters, trying to push out fake news of how the Ukraine military is beating back the Russians and they're marching on Moscow any day now, but they're doing it with paintball guns. Only the Zelensky regime is able to defeat Moscow, to defeat the Russians with paintball guns. But the tweets underneath the Reuters article are just absolutely hilarious, because a lot of people tie in the paintball guns with the 40 billion in aid given to Ukraine and all the billions given in weapons, and everyone is just railing on Reuters and this article. And they're making fun of all the aid being given to Ukraine so that you can have photos of military units practicing with paintball guns. Anyway, that's the clown world, everybody. I'll leave it there. Check out Alexander's channel. Check out the Duran's channel, theduran.locals.com. Take care.